Hi everyone, welcome to ConductVision Talks. Today I'm delighted to welcome an amazing lady whose smile and energy just captivates. Adriana Dergam is a leading businesswoman and one of our experts in our new leadership online course, How to Orchestrate Your Leadership. Previously head of corporate communication, sustainability and innovation at Vodafone, Adriana is currently board member of the Latin chapter at UTech Chamber. She's also member of the Council of the Government of the Czech Republic for Human Rights and honorary consul of Uruguay in the Czech Republic. In our course, Adriana shares with us her invaluable experience and insights. I thought I'd take up on this and have a chat with Adriana and ask her what she thought about interdisciplinary values, what inspires her, and her perspective on leadership and life in general. Adriana, you participated as an expert in our new online course. What do you think of parallels between music and business or business and sport?
Well, I think, for example, my experience, music and business, yes, was amazingly similar because we are talking about human activity. So you are talking about human groups that have some goal, that need to collaborate, there is teamwork, they have restricted resources, they are in an organization. So in a certain way, when you start to think about it, it's very similar. But what I find is that very often the problem, and it was nice to listen to the expert, to Mr. Weiser, the conductor, yes, that many times you feel we are talking about the same, but the terms are different. So I really appreciate your work, Bibi, and your course and what ConductVision is doing, because you are trying to bridge this kind, I would say, of linguistic differences, of calling the things differently, but we are talking about the same. I mean, the conductor has also problems with the team, with the pace, with innovation. Something I could have as a businesswoman, yes, but maybe we could call it differently. So it is similar, and I think thanks to your work, we can try to start to understand each other better, and try to see. It's really enriching our experience. So try to see, okay, how do you address this? Because music and orchestras and conductors do address it from another angle. How do we solve it in business? Maybe there's something in business that might be useful for conductors. There's something. So for me, it was very, very enlightening. Yes, this kind of like dialogue and understanding among us, and I'm really very, very happy that I could participate. So thank you very much. And I think this kind of like bridging and opening worlds is very important because it has also a kind of I would say, wider meaning, which is you are contributing with that to a social cohesion, to break those kind of silos, yes? That business is here and academy is here and here is art. In fact, I think if we try to speak the same language, we see that we have very many similar problems to address, that leadership is also a question in all these contexts, and we might really help each other. So, and if we understand more each other's, it's not about I'm the business, you are from, I don't know, NGO, arts, sports, you can't understand me. No, on the contrary, if I and I was thinking about it when I saw the course, for example, if I would, for example, be now kind of governmental officer in a city, in a municipality, I would probably, now knowing what I know thanks to your course, I would not just speak to businessmen in the area and, I don't know, state employees, schools, whatever, but I would invite musicians as well, or a conductor, because the social impact, for example, working with youth in risk or etc., can be done via music as well. So in fact, you are like learning about the society and about all the actors that can take part of the solution or of improving the society. So I see a very big social cohesion dimension in what you are doing, and in the fact that understanding one sector, another sector is very important from the wider societal point of view.
Oh, thanks, Adriana. That's so wonderful perspective on actually interdisciplinary values. What, for example, for you personally, and then for business people, what, for example, would have been your first takeaway message from a music conductor? What have you, let's say, directly learned?
what I have learned is one thing that amazed me is that you don't have a second chance. Yes, I mean, everything what you have, you know, all these kind of like skills that you have to display it there or on the spot. Yeah, and this is something that for people from business, it is different. And I think Ivana, one of the experts, also talks about that sometimes in corporations and business, the accountability is not so clear. You can always like blame the context or whatever. But if you are there as a conductor, I mean, you are there 100%. There's no way to fake it. Yeah. And Mr. Weiser talks about it. I mean, you have to be authentic. The orchestra sees if you are faking or acting. Yeah. So this kind of like that you are 100% on stage. For me, from the business, this is challenging. This is definitely challenging because I think we in the business we have time, we have teams. You can always hide and somehow blur your responsibility, your accountability. Yeah, but you can't do it in music.
Oh, that's true. We face the audience immediately. It's just in front of us. So there's, as you say, there's no possibility of hiding.
Yeah.
That's true.
The other thing is, and when you talk in the course about showmanship, I think, yes, I think that's a very interesting point, because if you see, you are speaking, and the course sets it perfectly, you are speaking about the conductor and the orchestra, but you are also mentioning the wider context. The conductor lives in, the orchestra performs. So being a showman in a certain way, I understand it from like being a business person, yeah, as this kind of like personal brand, orchestra brand, the brand of the trademark, yeah, and that's very important. You have to somehow to exist not only in the organization but in a wider setting of politicians, of social actors, of media, and this is a different skill set. And maybe I was thinking, and I don't know, you will know better, if conductors are being taught to this self-branding, you know, to this kind of we call it, for example, in business, executive presence, yes, how to represent, how to sell better. It's his or her own personal brand, but all the orchestra, because sometimes you speak to politicians who don't have a clue about your music. Yes, so there are many factors that also behind the scene, or when you are not on the stage, really intervene in your success and in your leadership style.
Oh, that's very well said. I think conductors are aware, of course, and it needs to be part of their training, because they know that they will face the audience. They can't hide. And they are the face of the orchestra. So if you go to a concert, like you're going, oh, I want to listen to that conductor conduct this orchestra. So they showmanship, or this, as you mentioned, executive presence is, I won't say inborn, but it has to be developed and nurtured to be a highly successful conductor. As you saw in the course, all the conductors we mentioned in the course, starting from Toscanini in the early 20th century to Dudamel today, they all have this showmanship a bit.
And I think you have to have it. And I think you have to have it in the sense that you are not with your audience and your orchestra, but you are in a wider context that might not might not understand your core business, which is music, but need to be attracted to you or somehow to support you. So you have somehow to translate your purpose in different languages. If you can't do it with politicians and music, how do you do it differently? And for example, I think I love the selection of conductors. Some of them I knew them, of course. Some of them were new to me, and I love the selection because you showed exactly this, that one thing is being on stage, and there are many layers. It's like an onion, yes. And so, for example, I started to think very much about the social impact of music with what you mentioned about Gustavo Dudamel or Leonard Bernstein, because if I go to my past, and this was the course really made me think a lot. I remember when the regime changed in in Czechoslovakia, then one of the first concerts we had here was the Beethoven Ninth Symphony with Leonard Bernstein, and as you can imagine, it wasn't just Beethoven's composition. It was so charged with the historical moment, the change, Bernstein coming to Prague, and it was aimed to students who were like the spark of the revolution. So you saw, and you made me think like retroactively that it wasn't just about the music, it had so many layers. And why, for example, I got emotional when I hear that symphony today is probably not so much about the composition itself or even the meaning with European Union that I'm very proud, but because of this personal historical meaning and layers that this composition acquired.
Wow, that's great. It's a wonderful story, like connection of change, historical, Beethoven's Ninth, and Leonard Bernstein coming then to Prague and conducting. Wow.
And it's I think it shows you another thing, is that music is a very powerful tool, which is something, I'm sorry to be so, not to be so romantic, but it's a really very powerful tool in terms of expressing, but not just to the audience in the hall. And that's why I started to think about, when you talked about Gustavo Dudamel, the social impact on social disadvantaged groups, or I remember Leonard Bernstein with his concerts and very mixed orchestras from conflicting ethnic groups, yes, and how music could unify, could be a dialogue, or could bring the kind of dialogue into another level or another language that wasn't conflicting. So I think, and it is in a certain way what your course is doing. I mean, look, I mean, music, orchestras, conductors, it's a very interesting world you can learn from, and you can use it for your company, for improving your performance as a leader, for many, many other things.
For example, what could you today or tomorrow take to your team or to your work environment? For example, what lesson or advice from a conductor that we've mentioned in the course?
I think, well, I would think there are three things. One of them is like, don't think about yourself as a finished product, yeah, about as something that is frozen and has already a label. Yes, from the stories of your conductors, of the conductors you mentioned in the online course, you see that those are people who are like improving all the time, searching, listening, learning, sometimes trying to disrupt something, innovating. So those are people who are developing all the time, this kind of all life learning and being responsive. So I think this is one thing. I mean, it's not a closed box. There is another that is absolutely obvious, and I'm very grateful for that, and also the other experts have contributed to this perception, is that there is no one winning leadership style. The conductors you are talking about are very different, but all of them have been successful in certain ways. And I spoke about like a toolbox of leadership styles that you just like use the ones you need in the moment, you change it. So it's a kind of dynamic changing of leadership styles, while still you have some styles that are more successful, that are more linked close to your personality, yes? And the interesting thing was that I started to think about myself, okay, what kind of mixture of conductors I would be? Mm-hmm. Why I'm not this one? Why I'm that one? So I started to think, oh, maybe I'm more a mixture of Veronika Dudarova with Gustavo Dudamel, maybe some Leopold Stokowski as an innovator. So it was a very, very interesting exercise also of self-reflection of who I am as a leader, yes? So that would be the second one, no one winning leadership style. And the third one, and I think it's Andreas Weiser that also stresses that, is the kind of authenticity, professional integrity. You can't fake it. And I think, I mean, the personal and professional integrity, which I understand as aligning your values, thoughts, words, and actions, is key. Yes, because it's about, the result is trust. You have to keep respect. It's about truthfulness. And I think on the long run, I mean, this is something that leaders need: trust, truthfulness, authenticity. Yes, so those are qualities that I would say are also very important in your course, this kind of like professional integrity.
It was like you reminded me of one interesting point Mr. Weiser said in the course is when I think I asked him the question of leadership style. And then at one point he says, it's not for me to say actually what kind of a leader I am. It's for the orchestra to say. So it's in a way, it's a kind of it's a humbleness. And it's also, one knows one's worth. However, let others also, people that I work with, they can say, I thought that was also a very good moment. And having worked with a number of conductors in my life, I can say 90% think like that.
And that's great, because I mean, there is really, and sometimes there's a big gap between what you think you do and how what you do is perceived. Yes,
exactly.
And I think this is a very important exercise in business courses, is what do you think about yourself as a leader, and then ask the group. And it really gives very, very valuable feedback, because you just realize that some of the things that you think are authentic or are not really important are being spotted or highlighted by people much more than you thought. Mm-hmm. And so Andrea's response is absolutely exact. It's for the team, the orchestra, to say what kind of leader I am, because sometimes our perception of ourselves is strongly biased.
True. I'll now move a bit away from our course, but we're still staying on the interdisciplinary values, and because it's we are inspired by something. Like I personally from art, somebody's from sport. One of my previous guests talked about outdoor sports. Ivana, in what my first guest, talked about singing in a choir. What is yours? What inspires you?
Yeah, well, I have to confess one thing, and maybe a couple of years ago it would sound strange, but now I have a lot of HR specialists saying the same, so I feel like entitled to say so. I feel that people, I mean, I don't understand very much the word workplace, yes? Because in my own personal history, I have been always involved in several activities, I would even say jobs. Some of them being paid, some of them not. But they had something in common, is that they were aligned with my personal values. I saw really, I was motivated. I saw meaning in that work. So, and they were from very different areas. Well, not so different maybe as like sport and business, but I was in business and academy one time. Now, for example, I'm in business and diplomacy simultaneously. Yes, and what I was thinking about the HR, that in the future, mm-hmm. The fact that we had a career for 12 or 15 or 20, 30 years, and we were saying, I am just a business person, it will not be like that in the future, because the flexibility, and young people are willing to have like a variety of flexibility and a variety of experiences. So even now you are beginning to see, okay, I have a person who is a professor, he's also working as an engineer, and he's writing books. So who is he? Yeah. So this kind of I am one thing is beginning not to be, and I think it will not be true in the future. So it's a way, I mean, to explain why I can't say I have been inspired all the time, and I have been inspired all the time by trying to be involved in activities that, like, in a certain way, were not my core job. Yeah. So I was a media person, and in academy, working with academics from another world, post-Soviet era, and I was involved also like in art when I was young with surrealistic groups. So I am trying to be inspired from very, very different areas of human activity. I would love to be more probably in music in the sense of actively, but I as I told you the story with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Yes, I think music has played a big role in my life all the way, in educating myself, even in some kind of like social awareness, I would say, because my family comes from Latin America, and as you know, music there was also a political instrument in a certain way, and there were people dying because of the music they performed. Yes, so it's present in my life. So I got inspiration from many other areas. Yes, from art, music, cinema. I like cinema and theater. From traveling as well, and from different spaces. And I get back to the point I was saying at the beginning. I think many times, and those areas are very similar because we are humans, yes. But many times it's a problem of translating the key terms of language, of understanding each other. So sometimes you have to invest quite a time in, this kind of, you say potato, I say potato, So in trying to understand the other human area or artist or whatever, to try to come into some kind of constructive and meaningful dialogue.
You made a wonderful point on everything you said, but I think what you said will help many people is identifying yourself today. Or I am, for example, you've actually answered one of my big, not issues, but always when somebody asks me, Bibi, what do you do? And then, well, I'm a violinist, but I also wrote a book. I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur. I founded 2 startups. So
exactly,
I'm not the only one. And
exactly.
It's a wonderful, I think will help a lot of people who listen to our talk understand their place today, and help move forward.
And I think maybe, I allow myself to try to find a kind of metaphor from music, but you will find a better one. Your identity, your personality, you as a person, it's a polyphony of different instruments and of different sectors, of different activities you have been doing. So and it's not exclusive. It's not that you are a musician and not the rest, It's like saying I'm a woman, but I'm also a mother. I'm also a businesswoman. I'm also a kind of honorary consul of Uruguay. I'm also this, and I have also, so this is, and I think it's good to stress this, because if you are many things on the same time, your experience is so rich. Sometimes this kind of extremist or populist movements are basically dividing people based on singular features. Well, I am Czech, you are not, Yeah, mm-hmm. But I am also Czech, and my father was born in Latin America from Middle East parents, and he lived in Spain, and my mother is Czech, but her grandfather was an architect from Italy. So you can't put me in a box. And I think this is something that really enriches the society. Not to be, to be out of the box. And I think more and more people, and young people definitely, will be very diverse, heterogeneous, and that's what the society will be about.
Yes, true. Wonderful. It's an amazing, also heritage, profession, and the diversity, and accepting, and our understanding is greater. Yes. Coming a bit to the end of our talk, I usually wanted to ask you about what would your leadership advice be. But I remembered now that you mentioned Veronika Dudarova, so there were 2 lady conductors in our course. You also shared with us in the course wonderful stories on women in leadership. So what would your thoughts be for our viewers on women in leadership, and also a bit about our 2 ladies from our course, Veronika Dudarova and Nadia Boulanger?
What I said in the course, and I would repeat it here, is that leadership styles are not gender neutral. Generally, leaders are perceived in a context, in a social context, in a historical context, and it very much also shapes the perception and how they are being then qualified. So I think it's very important for women to get into all spheres of human activities. We are half of the population of the world, and I think it can change all these activities for better, because we say, for example, in business, having more women in technology, for example, is improving your service and your product, because you are trying to mirror, as we say, your target group. So I suppose you are playing, when you are playing, you are also playing for women, and some might be younger and some might be older. So in a certain way, that would be great to have among musicians and conductors, also younger, older women, and all kind of diversity. I'm talking about cultural diversity as well. Yes, age diversity as well. So I think this is very important because it really enriches the experience and all the field. And we should try to be open-minded. And if we do have to help it a little bit, and you mentioned that, for example, women started to enter more orchestras when there started to be like a blind selection process, that the jury wouldn't see who is playing. Yes, so I think if we sometimes have to help like this way to see, look, I mean, women are good musicians as well. They can also conduct, and it's great. Yes, so let's help it. But I think I'm very happy, and I'm happy that you included this question. And I would encourage women to simply to be aware that their impact as leaders, as professionals, might be different from others, but try to use it and try to use it for the best. And honestly, when you asked me about Veronika Dudarova, I was thinking very much about herself, because I find a piece of Veronika Dudarova in my leadership style and in myself. But I also started to think, oh, what would happen if she hadn't lived in the Soviet Union by those times, if she had lived in another place? So it's not just about gender, but it's also about the social, political, and historical context that people are in that really shapes and the perception of their leadership.
That's a very good point, because I actually recently I haven't yet read a book about actually the influence of geography on politics. And actually, Dudarova is a great example of the influence of a certain regime at the time on a woman conductor. So, would she have succeeded more, succeeded less? This is now probably a debate for our next talk, because I think it's a great point, because it's interesting to see that the first woman conductor actually came from a country where there was a more closed totalitarian regime.
Yes, but that was a regime that was sending women to space. That was a regime that wanted women to drive a agricultural machine. You know, so that was also a kind of a regime that was trying to support some kind of like gender equality, sometimes fake, but in some fields it really, really worked. Also because of the historical context of the Second World War, for example, when many, many men just went away. So yes, I mean, you definitely have to think about these great leaders in terms of their like geographical and historical context.
Because a good point. It's interesting, for example, about women conductors, because it's so much ingrained in our minds, the vision of a man conducting, that I recently had some discussions about how should actually women conductors dress? Should they wear a tuxedo, or could they wear a flamboyant dress instead? So what would your thoughts be on actually, on this?
And I should say this kind of decision should be made in a very diverse group, because sometimes when you see the society, and I think the musical world definitely copies the biases of the rest of the society. So sometimes topics that concern mainly women, like mothers, for example, are being decided by men. So I would be warning, if we are taking a decision on female women conductor dresses, I mean, there should be women involved in a vast majority.
True, yes. Adriana, I can't thank you enough. This has been a highly enjoyable and pleasurable talk. And I look forward to talking to you in future. And using this opportunity once again to thank you very much also for your participation in our course as an expert.
It was an honor, and good luck to your course. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a great learning course. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana.